I'm what you would probably call an opportunistic filmer, which means that if I find an opportunity to film, I just take it. So, ideally I would have done a festive blue and orange makeup look for this video, but we just gotta work with what we've got. Furthermore, I didn't get a chance to review this script I made out, so hopefully I can pull this all together. We are here today to talk about Festa's 1996 film, Fatal Frames. I recently watched this without knowing anything about it, so I just pushed play, and I loved this crazy film. Turns out that it is widely hated, except for a few special people, like perhaps you. And I mentioned this movie in my What I Watched video recently, and I just felt like I needed to devote an entire video to this Giallo. State my case for why I love it, despite its problems. Again, like other why I love videos, this is not a plot review, so I'm not going to be walking you through everything. Plus, there are going to be spoilers, so if you haven't seen it and you want to before watching this, go get it. Yeah, so I'm just going to be cherry picking what I loved, highlighting what I loved about this 2 hour and 5 minute long Giallo. So, like I said, this is a 96 movie directed by Festa, and he is a composer and director. I think he's more commonly known for his music. I might be wrong. Honestly, getting information about these people from across the ocean is sometimes kind of challenging. Anyway, this movie is starring Stefania Stella, David Warbeck, and Rick Genasi. This movie follows Alex Ritt, an American director who goes to Rome to shoot a music video for sultry pop star Stefania Stella. Alex inadvertently gets caught up in the path of a serial killer who seems to be targeting people that Alex has met. Now, let's get into this point by point why I love this flick. First of all, the 90s essence. Okay, I have not seen a lot of 90s Giallo yet. So the first thing I just loved about this immediately was that impeccable 90s essence. I want to say it has a little more of like an early 90s feel, just like saxophones and shit. Like, we also get this synthy yet cinematic kind of score. Festa, I presume, was behind the entire score. I forgot to check, but it's really good. Very 90s. That's why I'm mentioning it here in the 90s category. It just really filled me with excitement to see this Giallo formula being executed in the 90s. So it's the same sort of imagery, the same sort of elements, but it's done through this 90s lens, and we also have new technology. So the killer films their victims with a camcorder. So we get this camcorder technology. We get a little bit of cell phone technology. It's fresh in a way compared to like the 70s or 60s. And I just love this new era of Giallo. Not saying it's better, but it's very interesting. The next thing I love about this movie is the 90s hunks. Are you kidding me? I'm sorry. I had no idea how much I needed long-haired men in my Jolly until now. The straight leg pants, the billowing shirts, the long hair. Like, these men are so tall. They are gorgeous. I love it. The next thing I love about this movie was the cast, and it's something that while the opening credits were rolling, I was noticing like Linnea Quigley, Donald Pleasance, even have Alida Valli, or is it Volley? I'm sorry. Who's been in a ton of stuff, including Suspiria. Plus, I love the guy that plays our lead, Alex. He was so great. So, Donald Pleasance, this is his last role in a movie. So, it was really kind of like special. It's special that it was a Giallo that he made his last appearance in. And if you've seen this movie, I'm sure, if nothing else, you remember when Donald Pleasance's character exited the film, there was a beautiful homage to Halloween. That was jaw-dropping. I texted my husband immediately, like, you'll never guess what just happened in this movie. Okay, so for those of you that don't know, he's on a payphone, he's talking to the investigators, and he's like, I have to get home by Halloween. It seems an old case has been reopened. And he hangs up the phone and walks off, and the Halloween theme plays. It's badass. Despite all of that, his role in the movie is like, it's pointless. I'm like, why was he here? He didn't even do anything. It's really weird. Honestly, same for Linnea Quigley. I mean, I guess she played like a little bit of a role, but I'm like, what was the point of you? Well, really the point of her was just to be another one of the people that Alex meets throughout his time in Rome. Like, but she serves no real purpose. And then Alida Valli is also just kind of a pawn, but it's still really cool to see her. The next thing I love about this movie is the colors and the atmosphere. I am a sucker for vivid, extra colors in movies. This movie is orange and blue, so much orange and blue, and then there's like a fog machine constantly going. I am like drooling while I'm watching this movie because it is so atmospheric. It is so visually stunning. This is very stylish, very flashy, very dreamlike. The way it's shot, it's really unrealistic, but I say that in the best way. For example, when Alex and his friend are sitting in Alex's apartment hanging out, it's so dark in there except everything's blue. You know, in the investigator's office, it'll be so dim and it'll be blue and there'll be a fog machine. There'll just be mist in his office. There'll be two people talking and there'll be like a backlight on them just silhouetting them. Everything is so unrealistic, but I love that because why are we making movies to look just like real life? We should be making movies that look like a fantasy, that have all these colors, that have all this crazy lighting. That is what I love. This movie, if nothing else, like if you're into color and experimental shots and everything, you will be all over this. My eyes are just glued to the screen when I'm watching this. Basically, this movie is like what I wish the world looked like. And going off the atmosphere, this film is really dreamlike, like feverish, psychedelic, like illogical. I feel like some people probably don't like that this movie pushes the bounds of logic, which kind of pushes it out of the boundary of Giallo that says it has to always be logical, because at least in terms of imagery, this movie is really illogical, and it does kind of throw in some supernatural red herrings there that make you think this might not be a logical Giallo. But yeah, when my first watch through, I was like, is this really happening or is this a dream? Like, I don't know what's happening. It's so trippy. The next thing I love about this movie is the setting. We get huge buildings, huge rooms. Like when Alex first gets to Rome and he meets like the record label person, his office is just like the size of a football field and it's empty. And then his desk is at the very end. Like, I love that. So we're in Rome and we get just beautiful, beautiful images. Like, it's a great setting. The next thing I love about this movie is the classically Giallo killer. It looks like the killer from like Blood and Black Lace or So Sweet So Dead, like trench coat, gloves, fedora, and completely concealed face. It is awesome. This killer wields a machete a lot. They move really quickly. They do their work sometimes just out in the open, brazen. They don't care. They're not worried. This killer is great. And I love that they didn't try to modernize that image of the 60s and 70s Giallo killer. They just kept it canon, if you will. The next thing I love about this movie is the gruesomeness. Like, the first kill we see is a beheading with a machete. It's really cool. They really go there with the violence, and I do appreciate that. Plus, the fact that the killer takes a camcorder and like films the victim in the moments right after death, that's a really disturbing concept, and I just thought it added an extra little bit of horror to this movie. It's almost like snuff film-like, which just feels really disturbing, but in a good way. It's really dark, and it's a good MO. And yeah, there's plenty of violence in this movie. Of course, it's like in the Giallo style where it's just like a spurt of violence here, a spurt of violence here. So it's not like laden with it, but we get some good helpings. The next thing I love about this movie is the music infusion. As we've already talked about, Festa is also a musician, and we also have the themes of music in the story, like Stefania is a pop star and doing her music videos and all that throughout the movie. So we get a little bit of kind of Stefania's music playing in the movie, and I like how it's all woven together. And we'll get to Stefania later. Say what you will, but I kind of liked her music. I like the music in this film, and I like that they're so heavily intertwined here. The next thing we need to talk about is Stefania. Now, she's not on this list because I love her, but she's probably one of the most polarizing parts of this movie. So Stefania is the wife, or was at least, the wife of Festa, the director. And some people were saying that this, like, her role in this movie was just to kind of like, it was selfish, it was to boost her own career. It was like self-serving. I don't know. And I didn't know anything about this when I watched it. When I watched it, I was like, I don't know if I like her. Someone commented on YouTube and said she's no Edwige Fenech. I just wasn't sure. I wasn't vibing with her. Okay, her acting, it's not that great. Sorry. And the way the cinematography was, like, the camera would just get in her face every time she talked. And, like, it would just abruptly transition to her face for her to say her line, and then it would move on. And it was really odd, and it kind of made her look sinister. And the way she said everything was like she had evil intentions. Also, I'm not good at telling if someone has had plastic surgery or not, but she seemed like very plastic, which was kind of jarring because we got a lot of natural beauty in the earlier days. That doesn't really matter. That's inconsequential. Did I say yet that I could not understand anything she was saying? She was very hard to understand. And I don't mean to sound ignorant or anything, but I did struggle with her accent. And I wasn't really buying her as a pop star, but I was like, it was 30 years ago, it's another country, I don't know anything about Italian pop, like, so I have no frame of reference to tell is she a legitimate, like, is she a believable pop star. I was like, I have no way of telling. So yeah, Stefania had me like, I don't know, but I did like the shots of her music videos. Like, I think they were really pretty, and I think she looked really good. The next thing I love about this movie is the acting. We need to remember, Stefania wasn't the only person in that movie who can't act. We had a lot of bad actors, a lot of awkward dialogue. It just flowed real awkwardly. But you may know I love me some bad acting, and this was the perfect kind where it's just hilarious. Moving on, I already kind of mentioned this, but I love the camera work. Even though some of it was really weird, like the abrupt transitions that I talked about, like to Stefania's face, for example. But it has this like really 90s quality to it, like the way it would do the fade and the way it would zoom and all that. And I kind of already said this too, but I loved the music video and photo shoot montages. Focus. I love the music video and photo shoot montages. I just thought they were visually pleasing. Really, really pretty. The next thing I love about this movie is my camera won't stay focused. Bear with me over this camera. I know the new camera I want to get. I'm just trying to figure out how I can get it. Anyway, so for now, I'm dealing with this janky thing. Focus. The next thing I love about this movie is something that a lot of people probably hate about this movie, and that is the overstuffed nature of it. After I watched Hellraiser 2, I read a review that called it overstuffed and undercooked. And I was like, that makes a lot of sense. But the fact it was so overstuffed was something that I really liked about Hellraiser 2, and it is something that I like about Fatal Frames. There's so much crammed in here. And there's so much extra stuff that ultimately doesn't matter. And so many interesting themes all mushed together that I just thought it was a really fun ride. We have seances, ghosts, murders, reincarnation, cemeteries, dreams, travel, show business. Like, there's so much here. And the story itself is rather layered. I don't want to call it a complex story, but the story has a lot going on. You know, we start off by referring back to Alex's life and his past in New York and everything that's happening in Rome and how all these different people are connected. And there is a lot going on here. The next thing I love about this film was the seance. I'm actually really a supernatural girl. Before I found Giallo, like, logical stuff was not my jam. Like, I wanted supernatural ghost demons and stuff like that. That was my stuff. So anytime something supernatural does make its way into a Giallo, I am thrilled. So when these people, Stefania and friends, went into this castle that has no electricity to have like this candlelit high society party that contained a seance, I was like, I'm here for this. The seance was beautiful, creepy. Again, I was like, are we breaking out of the confines of logic right now? I just love when the elite dabble in the occult. I was thrilled. I love the mystery in this movie. It's really a pretty cool story. Of course, by the end, it's like the only possible outcome is that Stefania is the killer. So it wasn't really like a surprise by the end, but I still think the story overall was really cool. And it's definitely worth a second watch once you know how it ends, you know who the killer is and everything. To watch it again, you'll catch all these little like hints and clues where you're like, they do throw in plenty of red herrings to confuse you in this mystery. And there were surprises at the end, okay? Don't get me wrong. Like, even though it's kind of obvious who the killer is, there's still a surprise to it. Oh, and at the end, when Alex gives his confession, I feel like I haven't talked about Alex enough, but I thought he was so great. He was so dreamy. And then I love that he's this character with basically like a dark secret. Because you want to be on his side, you know? But it turns out like he's a pretty bad guy. So at the end, I love his confession where he's just like screaming out the reasons why he did what he did. This is turning out to be semi-spoiler free, actually. I thought it was really powerful and really well done. I love you, Alex. So since we're talking about mystery already, like Enigma, I think this movie is also kind of mysterious because there's not much written about it online. Unless my freaking Google algorithm is not giving me what I want anymore. There was not a lot I could find about this movie, the making of this movie, and details about this movie, nor much about Festa. I don't know how you people are talking about him like a first name basis, but like, I can't find a lot about him, and I cannot find a lot about Stefania Stella. Where'd she go? You know? I tried to like Google image search them, both of them together, and like, there's one result. Where are they? And for example, I saw that Donald Pleasance's scenes were filmed in '93, but it didn't elaborate. Like, when was the rest of the movie filmed? Like, did they film his completely separately? Like, I'm confused. I'm sure there are books out there. You guys know a lot more than me because you actually read books. Props to you. Or, for example, you were there. You were there when this came out. I mean, I was there when this came out, but I was in 3rd grade. Anyway, let's move on. The last thing I loved about this movie was the final showdown. That final boss fight scene between Alex and the killer. I thought it was so cool. And this is the scene that is depicted on the cover of this movie. And it frustrates me. I don't like this cover. I feel like this cover says nothing about the movie. Now, while that scene was so cool, that shot was so cool, I feel like it doesn't translate well to a still image on a movie cover. The scene itself in the movie was great. It's just like, it had my heart going like, oh shit. Okay. And that's it. Those are all the things that I loved about Fatal Frames. I do know, like, I understand why people hate it. Like, I see the problems, but like I've been doing, I just want to say why I enjoyed it and what I enjoyed about it. It's definitely cheesy, okay, and it's definitely not for everybody. And I feel like if you're here, you probably know that already. Like, a lot of these exploitation movies aren't for everybody. You have to have a certain high-class taste to enjoy films like this. So yeah, it's cheesy, it's flawed, but it is just this awesome, psychedelic, blue and orange fever dream that I cannot resist. It's a blast to watch, and it is such a visual trip full of hunks and great kills. I thought it was awesome. Let me know your thoughts down below. I'd like to hear your thoughts about Stefania and what you hated about this movie or what you liked about this movie. I'd love to hear your thoughts. That's why I enjoyed making these Giallo videos so much, is I love the conversation that comes afterwards. So sound off below. And that wraps up this video. Ciao for now.